Alright, yeah. So I decided to talk a little bit about Metroid Other M. I know the game has been out for like 6 years. But recently I got a little bit more interest into the whole thing because, Nintendo just announced, what am I saying? Just announced it. Announced quite a few months ago that they're going to release a new Metroid game. It's going to be Metroid Prime Federation Force, which I'm not quite sure what to think about, but that's not the point. The point of this video is just me kinda theorizing about what the fuck was going on in Metroid Other M, specifically with Samus. She kinda seemed, one could say, overly, I'm gonna edit this shit. Overly insecure, overly over feminine to a certain point where it was unhealthy. Like, of course, she's a female character, ergo she has a feminine side to herself, but by God, it was literally unhealthy, since she actually received damage from being kinda acting like a frightened little girl in one certain situation, which has basically become synonymous with the game. As in which Ridley basically kind of appears and then she's off the frightened and shit, and for no apparent reason, at least according to a lot of people. Now here's my theory regarding the whole game and its story. I'm not really going to talk about the gameplay, just going to talk and try and focus about the story. Now what I think is that since the game takes place precisely after, almost right after Super Metroid, I basically presume that Samus is basically in sort of a kind of personal crisis of sorts. Personal crisis which is based upon the fact that she just realized that in her own mind, these creatures which she had been fighting for quite a while now, specifically the Metroids, seem to be kind of creatures of evil, but in reality they were only abused by others. And especially with her relationship with the baby Metroid, she came to experience a certain kind of, first of all, something related to motherhood, but more than that, a certain moral grey area. A area in her mind that basically just stated, these creatures are basically not necessarily bad or good, they're just animals in the grand scheme of things. And as such, they are kind of innocent, really. And the fact that she had been slaughtering them to like hundreds of them kind of made her rethink a lot of things, I presume. It's just my theory after all. And so she basically goes into this whole kind of depression thing, this whole situation where she's basically like, I don't really know what's what anymore, like whom to trust, whom not to trust. And then right when she's in this deep hole of uncertainty, Adam basically re-emerges in her life, and she has something to grab onto for now. She just sees him on the station, and she gets distracted, and the next thing she does is basically just go, yeah, that is brilliant, that is actually, I got something to distract myself, and I know precisely this person was her father figure when she tried to become one of the Federation Force troop people. And as such, it would make sense. She tries to avoid basically getting lost again in all her thoughts, just answering orders are given to her, obeying all the time, even if it's literally once again unhealthy to her, such as not activating the barrier suit in certain situations which would have required her doing so. And as such, it would make kind of sense, at least in my mind it does. And the Ridley thing is a slight bit of a different story altogether. But here's what I think. Now, in the previous games, let's just not talk about Prime right now because I actually haven't played them yet, but in the previous games, specifically Metroid 2 and Super Metroid, she faces off against Ridley in all three. No, she doesn't face off Ridley in Metroid 2. Thank God that I didn't mix that one up. But what she does is she faces up against Ridley twice. The first time she does it, I presume, the first thing she thinks is pure and utter rage, like she just wants to kill this motherfucking thing, and Second time, it's also something. But the third time, it's basically in her mind. She's already confused as is. She's in a crisis, in a personal crisis, which again is my theory. That's why she acts like a total wimp most of the game. The reason why she basically has this God, what was it called again? What's the specific word for that? Stress, something, mental stress disorder? No, that wasn't it. Why she has this breakdown right in front of Ridley is because she just realized this thing seems to be just coming back over and over and over again, and it just doesn't die. It is always reborn through some way or another. It is unescapable to her, and due to this fact, it seems rather, well, pointless to her to even keep up that front of being not affected by seeing Ridley. That front she probably kept up for all the other fights, I presume. And at that moment she just cracks and reverts back to the mental state of a little girl, you could say. That is basically just my theory about this. Now, I could be wrong, and I'm not sure what the actual developers and people who had something to do with the game wanted this to be, but that is my theory. So basically, she's just in a mental crisis, and after the game is done, she has worked it all up, and we can start out with Fusion, where we basically get back our good old Samus Aran, who is not a complete and utter tool, one could say. Yeah, she's basically a tool of the military during lots of times. But yeah, that's basically it. And that's also one of the reasons why she maybe she got Adam Malkovich's personality in her computer in Fusion, because maybe the military installed it in her computer, or whoever installed it in her computer did so that she would have something to hang on to and not fall back into this slippery slope of existential crisis, which once again, not actually existential crisis, more moral crisis. That she doesn't do this again, like that she has something to grab onto. But I'm not sure about that. I mean, that's just a theory of mine, and I hope it was entertaining enough to listen to. I hope it was coherent. Not sure about that though, but anyway, that was my theory. Thank you for listening or watching regardless, and yeah, I hope that Metroid Prime Federation Force is gonna be better than what it looks like. That's all. Have a nice day.